Hey, hi, hello, friend. So today we continue our conversation with Cate Osborn. We continue ranting against the patriarchy, unpacking the pleasure of sex, the ADHD kink overlap, how intimacy is being known, and so much more. Also, go check out our Patreon and listen to the Patreon exclusive chat that we had with Cate after the main episode. So without further ado, here's part 2. Welcome to season 7 of the Queer Consciousness podcast. I'm Kit Sargent, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Jess Grace Garcia, and my pronouns are they, them. We're just humans wanting to share the lived experience of other humans.
This season, we're talking about all things sex. We want to have deep, heart-led conversations as we unpack what sex means to us and why it's so important to talk about it.
This is a season of unlearning, relearning, and sharing about a topic that is still considered taboo.
Because at the end of the day, we are all spiritual, sexual beings having a human experience, walking each other home.
I wondered if this was going to come up during this conversation, and it feels like the perfect time. I've recently been watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I am not a reality show person. Like there are a couple exceptions to that, but for the most part, I normally get way too angry, and just like the drama of it all drives me nuts. But something has happened, and a friend told me it would happen. And I said, no, there's no way. I don't think I can even get through the first episode. And now I'm in the second season. And he said, you will very quickly become empathetic towards these women because they grew up the way that we grew up. And there are ways in which it is showing up in their marriages and showing up in their relationships with each other, the way that they are intimate, the way they talk about intimacy, the way they talk about sex, the way they talk about their bodies. And suddenly you're going to have a really hard time hating them. And it's happened, and it's been a wild ride. There's one person who's openly talked about the fact that like she's never had an orgasm. She's like 23 or 24 years old. She's been married and now divorced. And they just had a sex therapist educator come into this like group of women and try to figure out like basically like the goal is we want our friend to have an orgasm. We want our friend to be able to reach orgasm at some point. And they're playing with like different sex toys and all of them, it's like they're teenage girls again. They're all just so silly and uncomfortable around each other. And the educator is keeping such a cool like energy and is like trying to like help them like figure out like what is it that you like. And by the end of the time, I think they accomplished something. And it was basically that the one person who has never had an orgasm said, oh, I think I might want it rough. And I realized that so many of the people that I know that came out of religious contexts, who came out of like that sort of sexual trauma, she was like, I haven't even thought about, like, she was like, I only think about what he might want. So that whole like,
yeah,
round peg in a square hole, like this idea of like she just was taught, like she's had children, and like she said, and so these people that I know that have come out of religious context end up being really kinky folks, like super into like BDSM and stuff like that, because it takes them out of their brain.
Yep.
They can like get out of themselves for a second. And then, okay, now that we've accomplished some of that, it's like, okay, how can we do this in a way that feels good? Like that feels like something I want, not just disassociation. Right. And like, you have to get through all of that to get to that place of like good dopamine. And it's just been an interesting ride watching that recently, because there's just been so much that has come up. But that specifically, I was like, ooh, like the idea of, for me, something that I've been healing recently has been like my so my wife Jana and I are the ones that more frequently have sex. And sex is like one of those things where it's like, if we're going to do it with the three of us, it's going to be a long, fun time, and it's going to be like a time period where maybe Erica doesn't have to work for several days so she can recover. So it's this huge conversation. But Jana isn't as sexual as I am. And I went through a really stressful season last year. I lost my mom died, and we were getting married, and I was the one planning everything. And so it's just there's a lot of different stress factors last year. And at some point, Jana, who does not lean into sex for stress, actually goes the opposite direction. That's one of the areas that we struggle. And there was a moment where I was like, I want to get off, but I don't want to masturbate. I don't want to do it for myself. And I want to be close to you. And she was like, we can do that. There's no problem with that. Like, I'm down to do that. And I was like, yeah, but that feels like selfish. And she's like, I want to do that. Like, I'm okay with doing that. It doesn't, and I'm like, are you sure? Like, I can do stuff to you if you want to. And she's like, no, like, I don't think I want or need that right now, but I'm okay with doing that for you. And I had a really hard, I feel like there have been different times in my life with partners that I've had to work on that, like being okay with that being a part of it. And part of that's just because I get so much enjoyment from doing stuff for my partners that's like a part of my needing, prep to get there. But that's been, I don't know, there's another aspect of that I've been kind of healing for myself. Like, it's okay to even ask.
Yeah.
You know?
I do a lot of work in that space. I do a lot of work in the space of looking at people going, well, what do you like? And I would say 95% of the time they go, I've never thought about it. Or
That's
they
so wild.
have this like inkling of what they might enjoy, but they've never had the ability to like articulate it or feel like they are safe to even ask the question. Do you know what I mean? One of my favorite,
this is the blessing of being queer,
right?
We can talk about those things,
right? One of my favorite writers on the topic is Betty Martin, and Betty Martin wrote this fabulous book called Giving and Receiving. And it is literally about that. It is literally about like, I want to get off, and my partner is fine with giving that experience to me. And like, I will be the one receiving the pleasure, but now I feel weird and guilty because I'm not like reciprocating. But giving and receiving are two different categories of thing. And so like, you don't have to, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of work and breaking down of like, where do you struggle? Do you struggle with giving or receiving? Do you struggle with like taking or, like that kind of thing? And it's fascinating work. And the thing that I really enjoy about it is that it really also lines up very nicely with a lot of issues that arise in like neurodivergence, especially around the sort of inherent trauma of growing up neurodivergent, being told that you're wrong and bad and you're too much and why are you like this and why can't you do it like other people, and if you just buckle down and you just tried harder and all of those different things. And that sort of like entire rejection sensitivity conversation around just so many people that I work with, so many people that I see are incredibly intelligent, empathetic, kind, curious, compassionate people who have no idea who they are. They have no idea because they have spent their entire life chameleoning and morphing into the person that they think the person in front of them wants them to be, because that idea of being rejected or being told that they're too much or they're weird or they're strange or whatever is just so scary and so upsetting that they will just become someone else entirely. And the story that I always tell is that I thought for a very long time that I loved Star Wars. I thought Star Wars was, I thought I liked Star Wars. And then I did a lot of like internal work. And I realized that no, I don't actually like Star Wars. The guy that I was dating like 10 years ago was really fucking into Star Wars. And that became an entire part of my personality because he liked Star Wars. So I would like Star Wars. So we had something in common. But I don't like Star Wars. I like The Mummy. It's a better movie and much gayer.
And every bi person I know,
right?
It was so often their bi awakening.
But it's like that kind of thing. But then, you take that kind of trite example of The Mummy, but you apply it to how do I like to be touched in bed, right? What do I like done with my penis or whatever it may be? And a lot of times people don't even, one, they don't have the slightest idea, or two, they don't even have words for it, or three, they've been told that it's shameful and bad and disgusting and terrible, evil sin to touch yourself to figure out what you like. So there's like this whole breakdown that happens in terms of even figuring out what you like and how you like it. And so many people, and Betty Martin talks about this as well, but so many people endure, right? Like so many people put up with the pain of the square in the round hole, because that's what the fear of speaking up, or, if I say something, then my partner is going to think that they're doing a bad job, or they're going to get mad at me, or they're going to think I'm not like down for it, or whatever. I'm going to be a disappointment. I'm going to be a fuck up. I'm going to mess up this sexual experience because I complained or I said something. And so many, many, many people wind up suffering through really negative and really painful and really unsatisfactory sexual experiences for the sake of keeping the peace, for the sake of being that person who is always, excited and the person that I think you want me to be. And it's really sad. It's really sad that so much of the work that I do winds up in that category of, we have to start at the very beginning of, you are allowed to say that something hurts. You are allowed to say that you don't like something. And a partner who is not receptive to that, like, that is a problem, not with you, but with the partner. But so many people come from structures where speaking up is frowned on and advocating for oneself is frowned on, and naming wants, needs, and desires is considered taboo or shameful or embarrassing, or, ew, I'm not going to use scientific terminology with my partner. That's not romantic. All of these learned ideals around sex and sexuality that just deeply impact our ability to have satisfying and fulfilling pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, as a masculine presenting person who's AFAB, it's kind of a unique experience.
Oh gosh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I tend to be attracted to really women who really know who the fuck they are. And I think the reason why that happened was because I would end up partnered with people who were people pleasers and wanted to, or even not even just partnered, friends with people who would like want to kind of jump on my caboose because I was an individual. I knew who I was. I've always known.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always had a very clear understanding of what I wanted. I mean, I was like 11 years old and I was going to be on Broadway and I was going to be in the WNBA and no one's going to stop me. And like like I knew who I was, and like because of that and being friends with so many other girls, it was like, oh, I want to hook on to that, and I had to learn that that wasn't helpful for me. It wasn't something that like I wanted in my life, but also like it's a lot of I've got my own people pleasing, tendencies. And so what I've faced as you're speaking, I was kind of realizing like sometimes people think like I'm all about my spouses because I talk about my spouses so much. And what it is that I'm about my people. I love people, right? So like I will often say, like my wife Erica, she and Jana actually, they both collect pops. So I'm being stared at by little figures around my house always, and and there are all kinds of things that they really enjoy. Like I'll watch whatever. I'll watch the Mummies, even though sometimes I don't like scary things, but I'll watch Mummy because Erica really likes it. I'll watch Mandalorian because Jana wants me to, whatever. I like consuming the things that they enjoy because I enjoy being around them. But when it comes down to it, what am I? I'm not a collector of things. I'm a collector of people. And I just love humans, right? And yet you won't see things on my walls. Like you won't see, like, I'm not sitting here trying to nest right away. But right away, what do I have? I have people. I have a network of humans. I have and yet my wife Erica will say, like, we'll be walking around, say a Ren Fair or something, right? And there's art or an art fair, and she'll be like, that's something Jess is going to want. And it's just because of the color and the vibe of the piece. And there's nothing like she could maybe write something like it's like 2 paragraphs worth of maybe why she believes that it's something that I like, but it's just because she knows me. Like it's not easy to point at, you know?
Yeah.
And yet I have found that I fucking love my autistic friends. These are the people that I collect specifically. I really specifically collect people on the spectrum, which I believe, it's all an umbrella anyway. Eventually we'll be like, yeah, this is ADHD and autism are all under the same thing. And hopefully we'll get around to actually saying that for real. For real. I feel like there's a lot of people saying it, but not like saying it in a clinical sense. But I collect autistic folks because I feel like they're in tune with who they are. Often they're able to communicate what they need or want, and they are blunt, and they're not gonna bullshit me most of the time. And I've just found this trend to happen in my friend groups. I'm like, I know we tend to surround ourselves with other neurospicy people, but that has happened. And I think it's also because I'm a bit of an extrovert and I tend to lean. I really enjoy like that balance of like ambiverted, introverted folks. But yeah, it's become an interesting thing that I've started to kind of realize, like the kinds of people that I'm like attracting to myself. I like that they know who they are. Like I will be friends with all kinds of people, but if you're going to be in my inner circle, I need you to know who you are. Like it's such an important, like, and we're always becoming something, right? I also need that. I need people to be flexible enough to know that they are always learning and they're always growing and desire that. There are a lot of people who don't, there's a lot of people that are like, this is just who I am and take it or leave it kind of vibes. And it's like, I think we're always growing. We're always changing, and we're not talking about like the core like parts of who we are. We're talking about like you said, 10 years ago, I was really, I had a partner that was into this and I just realized I wasn't, like that's huge. The fact that you're able to admit that is, I think, huge. Like to be able to say like, I actually never liked Star Wars. I have found, it's funny that you brought up stars because Star Trek was something that we spent all year last year going through all of the different Star Treks. And it was something that the spouses started. And then I was just like really into it. I was like, oh, I think I'm really into Star Trek. Oh my gosh, am I a Trekkie? Am I actually a Trekkie? I don't know. I don't know if I could. Oh, it's coming up in conversations a lot. Okay, maybe I'm really into it. Yeah, I think I'm really into it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like at its core, so much of intimacy is just being known.
Yes.
Like it's just about being known, and it's being known as you are and with like welcome acceptance. And I think a lot of people who struggle around sex and sexuality have often just never had the permission structure to be known as they are without feeling like they have to make up for some kind of perceived shortcoming. There was like a study done a while ago that talks about how like kids with ADHD receive something crazy like 20,000 more negative messages about themselves by the time they're 12 years old than kids without ADHD.
Oh, I've never heard that.
And it impacts you, and it impacts your ability to have fulfilling, meaningful relationships if your whole life you have been told that you need to be another way, that you need to be different, that you need to be better, you need to just try harder, or whatever it may be. And that really fundamentally shapes how we perceive ourselves. And so it's really funny because my like hot take that I use a lot in some of the classes that I teach, especially at kink conventions, is I will come right out and say people pleasing is manipulative, and people get real upset. I've had people like start crying. I'm like, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying that you're doing it to be sneaky and bad and a bad person, but it is a type of manipulation. And sometimes I think one of the hardest things is when it comes to sex and sexuality is we really have to confront the places where the belief structures that we hold around ourselves and how they are actually limiting our ability to engage in fulfilling relationships, they're limiting our ability to access our own pleasure. And especially when it's around things like speaking up or asking for what we want, or, holding some sort of shame and embarrassment around, like, I do actually really want it rough, as opposed, like, I don't like gentle, kind sex. Like, I really want to, like, feel something in my body about it. People can hold a lot of guilt and shame because of the messaging that we receive. And so I think being able to unpack that is just a really powerful part of the experience, especially if you are neurodivergent. It's just knowing yourself, being able to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, I felt betrayed for sure in situations where partners have people pleased, and then, I'm like, I thought I knew what you wanted. I thought you told, like, I thought you said this was good. I thought this is what you wanted. And it's okay to come back and say, like, that isn't what I want. I want this instead, but that's not what happened.
Yeah.
You blamed me for not knowing and not asking or not making enough space or whatever it was. And it's like, it's made me even more hyper vigilant. It's something I've had to heal for myself as well. Like with current partners, this is like way back in the day, but it's like where I was like, I just want to check in, and that's why I think that I'm attracted to people who know what they want or who they are.
Yeah. Well, that's
because of that.
Yeah. Like, that's another one though that is so common because of the way that we talk about relationships and the way that we talk about intimacy and love. Because every fucking rom-com that exists is based around mind reading. Every single like romantic movie that exists is around the main character never explicitly saying what they want, and then the love interest intuiting what they want and then being the perfect person for them. And that's what
so true.
romance is sold as. And so there is this like really prevalent idea around like, well, if he wanted to, he would. Or if he really loved me, he would just know that I want him to bring me flowers every Friday or whatever the fuck it is. And then like, and it's interesting because I will make videos about these things. I will say like, hey, mind reading isn't a thing. You have to ask for what you want. And inevitably, every single time in the comments, there are people going, well, it's just not romantic to have to ask for flowers. If like, he just should know that I want flowers. Or it's not romantic to have to be asked or to ask my partner to say, I love you before I leave for work. And so the resistance comes around these like narratives around it's not romantic to ask for what you want. It's not romantic to communicate. The romance is in the knowing and in the sort of like magical kismet of, oh, he brings me flowers without my ever having to ask. But the truth is like, but for me, I don't like flowers. I hate it when people give me flowers. I want a plant. I want something that is going to stay alive. Don't murder flowers on my behalf. But you wouldn't know that unless you have that conversation, right? It's not my husband who brings me plants. He doesn't bring me flowers. He brings me a little plant in a pot, and it's wonderful. But that kind of thing is also so detrimental to intimacy because people will just shoot themselves in the foot. They'll just sabotage their own relationships to cling on to this idea of romanticism as painted by sort of like cishet white patriarchal society. And then are surprised when they're not getting the things that they want and they're not getting the things that make them feel good and make them personally feel satisfied, because what they are getting is the carbon copy garbage ass. Well, every girl likes getting flowers and jewelry. That's what girls like. We like jewelry and flowers, but a lot of girls don't. A lot of girls want plants and books and dates at the museum. They don't want plants or flowers and jewelry.
You just described like perfect date.
Right?
The plants, the books, the museum. That's what we do.
Yeah, but it's like that's such a component piece of intimacy is the assumption that of course my partner, knows what I want. But no, that's not true.
I mostly get frustrated about that because I want it, right? Because I want that romanticism. And so like I'm a great communicator about what I want. And yet there are the moments that it comes up in me and it's like, I just don't want to tell her. I just don't want to tell her that I want this because it's going to ruin it. It's gonna ruin it. And I have to have the same conversation with myself. Yeah, but is it gonna ruin it more not to tell her
Yeah.
that this
Yeah.
is what you want? And so this is so silly, but I bring this kind of thing up a lot. I think I like acts of service a little bit more than I used to. I'm not sure, question mark. I had said to Jana literally like 2 days ago, hey, so I've been doing a lot of the chores recently. It was just totally fine. You know that I'm down for that, but the toilet needs to be done. I really don't want to do it. And she was like, is that my job to do that now? And I was like, no, I just I've been doing it nonstop the last like I don't know how long, and I really don't want to do it. And I was wondering how long you'd be willing to put up with it, and you put up with it longer than I would, and I'm not okay with it anymore, and it needs to be done, and I don't want to do it. And I was like, I said that, and then we were good, and there was no pressure of timeline or anything. Like I didn't give her a timeline or anything like that. And then like the next morning I came in to a clean toilet, and I was like, oh, that's so nice. And then I went in and like gave her lots of kisses, and she was like, oh, what was that for? And I was like, I really like using a clean toilet. That was nice. It was just like the sweetest like moment. And then I texted her later the day. I was like, thanks again, baby.
Like, I was like, girls don't like, this is like the quote that I always see on social media about that kind of thing. It's like, girls don't want you to bring them flowers. They want you to unload the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Like,
Legit. I will identify as girl in that moment. Yeah. And for me, like I tend to do and I see how much they appreciate it too. Like if I'm doing dishes, like why is my wife coming up behind me and like hugging me and like getting touchy feely on me? It's because I'm doing the dishes. Like put two and two together, you know?
oh yeah.
Welcome to patreon.com/queer consciousness podcast. Can I have a name for the order?
Yes. My name is Carl.
Thanks, Carl. What would you like today?
Could I get a community support?
With the works?
Yeah.
So Kit's blogs as well as the Patreon exclusive chat? Anything else?
Yeah, I also need a producer.
Make it a basket?
Yes, please.
All right, Carl. So you want to make sure that Jess gets compensated for all their hard work? Cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I need a patron.
Just the patron?
Yeah.
You don't want the shout out at the end of the episode or to sit in on a conversation with Jess and Kit or to help support the queer community? Just the patron?
Yeah, just the patron.
All right. Your total is $40, Carl. Please pull ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, listeners of Queer Consciousness. Clearly, you have excellent taste, so we wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Elise, they, them.
I'm Carrie, she, they, and together we created our podcast Proudly on Record to give a platform to queer stories as an act of resistance.
We would love to invite you to join our conversations with queer folks exploring the long-term effects of religious trauma, journeys of deconstruction, and the joy that comes from living life as your true, authentic self.
Lately, we've spoken with conversion therapy survivors, explored the sapphic drag queen scene, asked ex-Mormons how they survived without caffeine, and interrogated mental health experts on why. Just why?
So, if you've ever felt entitled to monetary compensation due to your religious trauma, or have ever wanted to waltz with potatoes up and down the produce aisle, have we got a show for you.
You can find Proudly on Record on all streaming platforms.
Now, back to our favorite theys, Jess and Kit.
one of the things that frustrates me the most about like the types of romance that you're talking about is the fact that, to your point of, it's all capitalist based, where it's like everyone wants to be romanced in a way that costs money, that is very like affluent, that is very outwardly expressive, where it's like, look, I did this thing. Like this is the thing that I did for you, even though it has nothing to do with what you want and or need. And so like when someone says, like to your point about the social media post where it's like the girls don't want flowers, they want you to unload the dishwasher. It's because of the fact that people want to be seen, they want to be known. And when you try and ask someone what their what their definition of romance is, they automatically default to a rom-com where the guy shows up at the bottom.
I bought you a car.
Right, I bought you a car, or I bought you some flowers, or here, it's Valentine's Day, here's your chocolates and flowers. And like one of the things that like with that for me, like I distinctly remember one of my first boyfriends. It was Valentine's Day, and I explicitly told him like 4 times, I do not want chocolates. I do not want flowers. Do not get these things for me. I do not want them. And he thought that I was just being like a girl, being like, oh, don't give me flowers. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, no, I am being dead serious. And so Valentine's Day rolls around. I come home from school, because this was when I was in college, come home from school, go up into my room, and what is waiting for me? Then a dozen roses and a box of chocolates. And I was so furious. I immediately called him on the phone. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? And he's like, what do you mean? I got you flowers and chocolates. Didn't you want that? And I'm like, no, I told you explicitly 4 times, do not get me flowers and chocolate. What part of do not did you not understand? Don't fucking do it. I immediately threw them out. Like I didn't even, it was an immediate in the trash. And he was like, so you weren't just being a girl and saying that like you just didn't want, I'm like, no, dumbass. I did not say it in a little like flirty little, oh, don't get me flowers. I was like, do not, under any circumstances, get me flowers and chocolates for Valentine's Day. I do not want them. Did you think I was kidding? Is this my kidding face? No, this is not my kidding face. Like, I was so mad. I didn't talk to him for the rest of the week. And Valentine's Day was on a Tuesday. And he was like, I don't understand why you're mad at me. I thought I was doing the right. I'm like, I fucking hate capitalism. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it because it ruins things that are meant to be good things. Like realistically, on a random Tuesday, if your partner were to come up to you and say, hey, I got you a flower and your favorite candy bar because it's Tuesday and I love you and I knew that you were going to have like a kind of a shitty day today because you had been stressing about something at work and I wanted to get something that was going to make you smile. And I know for a fact
that's romance. That's romance right there.
That
right
is
there.
romance. Because you're like, I just want to make you smile because I know that you had a tough week. Here's something that I know for a fact will make you smile. Your favorite candy and just a random little plushie or like a felt flower that you know is not going to die. Or if it's your favorite flower and you're like, I just wanted the one. It smells so good.
I found this cool rock.
Right,
like,
yeah. That's
hey,
romance.
that's
I totally brought home 2 cool rocks from when I went up north and I like did a couple of stops on the way back down at beaches and I was like, oh, this beach has cool rocks. I'm going to bring some home for my wives.
I love a cool rock.
Yeah.
I love a cool rock.
Yeah.
No, okay, like
That's romance.
Yes. And what's really interesting is that it like part of it is that sort of like being known, but some of it is also there is this tendency, and we see this around like stuff, but we can also see this around touch, like especially in the work that I do, is that your partner will be like, well, I'm giving you flowers and chocolates so I feel good about myself. So I feel like I did Valentine's Day correctly because what you want for Valentine's Day does not align with how I perceive Valentine's Day should be. And so they're not doing it for the sake of giving you something nice. They're doing it so they feel like a good partner or good whatever on Valentine's Day. But sometimes that also shows up around touch. and where partners will take touch or just assume
Yes.
that like intimacy and touch are wanted because I'm such a good partner. I kiss my wife every day before I leave for work. But what I'm actually doing is waking my wife out of a dead sleep with a sloppy mouth kiss. And it's horrifying and terrifying for her every single time it happens. But I'm such a good partner because I kiss my wife goodbye every day before work, or, you know, whatever it may be. Or like, it was funny, Jess, you talked about like, you know, your wife coming up behind you and giving you a hug. There are some people who hate that. There are some people who are like, I do that. I'm trying to do the dishes and now you're distracting me. But
true.
there's that idea of like, oh, well, I'm such a good partner because I know that like cute partners do this, you know? And so it's the idea of sometimes intimacy, sometimes that sort of radical honesty is, am I doing this for the other person? Or am I doing this to the other person for the sake of my own self-centeredness or gratification, or so that I can feel like I'm the goodest, bestest partner in the whole wide world? It's really, Betty Martin talks about this. She talks about the dark side, speaking of Star Wars. But sometimes the dark side of giving is like people will do this habitually, right? So they'll, you know, cook like an elaborate 5-course dinner, not because their partner expects a 5-course dinner, but so that they can get the gratification of, look at how much work I did for you. Look at all of these, look at all the trouble that I went to. And then when the partner doesn't acknowledge it and doesn't say like, oh, wow, I can't believe you did all this work. Thank you so much. You're the best partner in the whole world. Then they get like mad and resentful. And they're like, well, I did all this work and you didn't even say thank you, or whatever it may be. And it's like, well, that's because you're taking. What you're doing is you're actually taking the validation that you need, as opposed to like meeting your partner. They just wanted a sandwich for dinner. You know what I mean? So just like, I don't know, it's really interesting, like how those patterns of behavior show up and how often it's never about the partner. It's actually about the person who is like buying the flowers and chocolate, even though they've explicitly been told not to.
I will say I'm super thankful for this like innate ability to want like to be in tune with my friends and my partners, because like because I can't get off unless the other person is like fully invested, which is hilarious with ADHD, because it means that like if we're doing sex at night for whatever reason and all of our meds have worn off, and sometimes we have to press pause because there's just something really funny that I thought of that I have to share, because for whatever reason we're enough distracted that like this just isn't a great time right now, because like, we're
Happens
both
to the best
in
of us.
very different worlds. It's like, okay, let's just say the thing that's on our minds. Like, let's just say it. But I found that to be a really useful skill, because it's like, because I will get gratification from understanding what the other person wants and seeing them experience the joy, right? It's works out well, because I'm not when you tell that story about the kind of person that's like more like, oh, I'm doing this because that's what you're supposed to do. I have a hard time relating to that, and I can relate to a lot of people, but that has been one of the ways that like when someone shares that, I go, that is so interesting, like that way of thinking. And I'm not to say that it hasn't shown up. I'm sure it has shown up for me in my relationship at times, where I think I'm doing the right thing and realize I wasn't. But there have been many times, especially I was thinking like in friendships and friendship intimacy, where I'm like, you know, well, is that something that you'll enjoy? Well, if you'll enjoy it, I'm down. Like I've had friends who want to take me to a concert. I've never heard the person before, right? And I love music. And I love concerts. Okay, sure. I'll listen to the album. That sounds good. Like, you want to buy me a ticket and take me to a concert? Sounds great. Let's go. And they just want someone who's going to be like having a good time. And I'm having a good time because you're having a good time. Like that works. That's my kink. I'm having a good time because you're having a good time, right? I wanted to share this because it's perfect timing. I just got in the mail a postcard from Kit. And it's super cute, because this is something Kit decided to start doing after they came out here for my wedding, and they got a huge pack of like postcards, and then they started writing to several friends, and now they have consistently been writing, and so it's become a really nice romantic, sweet gesture from a friend to receive a short paragraph on a small little piece of paper, and yet it means so much because it means that they spent time thinking of me and now my spouses, because they enjoy getting their own postcards as well. And I think like we need to bring back romantic friendship, like more like ways of being, like you guys kept being like, that's romance. And I just kept thinking about like how many times my friends have been romantic with me and how it has helped balance my universe of relationships. Because it's something that, for whatever reason, my spouses aren't always very good at being romantic, and or their version, my version of needing romance, right? And so sometimes I have to say like out loud, I need some romance, but my best friends, my best buddies, man, they are the best at being romantic with me. They are so good at it, and I'm just so thankful for those elements of intimacy. And then I start to think about what we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation about, how men, there's this quote unquote loneliness epidemic, and it's because they aren't having these kinds of friendships. They don't have these kinds of relationships. They don't even know what's going on in their friend's marriage or what's going on, in their family, like they might have like a regular, thing that they do to go to a certain sports ball game, but they don't know, they're not having those kinds of conversations in it. And I want that for everyone. I want people to be able to have these sorts of kind of like levels of care without there being a question mark. Oh, are they interested? Or is this something else?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Kit and I got to see each other when I went to Minneapolis last month to work with an artist, and it was extremely romantic of them to drive 6 hours to come and see me from Wisconsin.
Some content.
It's just so sweet. And there were moments that we didn't, when we're talking about physical intimacy, that we didn't we were like, wait, we can actually cuddle. We're not like on a Zoom to connect right now. Like we can actually, so we were on FaceTime with my spouses, and like Kit was like snuggled into me, and I was like, this is so sweet.
That's so cute.
Yeah. And there's just like moments that you're like, this is, and even if there's like a small part of me that's like, oh, is this okay for us to be cuddling? You quiet that voice. You go like, no, like this is good. This is good. Like for many reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do the surprise question. I think like
here we go.
I think we've gotten to this point.
One duck-sized horse.
That's amazing. And I want one so badly. Okay, so the question that we end every podcast with is, knowing what you know now, having lived the life that you have lived, if you could go back to your 21-year-old self and tell them one single piece of advice about sex, what would it be?
Oh, fuck. That's such a good question. You're allowed to ask for what you want.
Yes.
Like my 20s were so couched in just mistake after mistake after mistake that was just solely based in. I mean, I wasn't diagnosed when I was 21, so that's the first thing. I had no idea what was going on. Actually, I feel like my piece of advice was, "You have ADHD." That would be my, but
sex,
yeah, it was
asking what you want.
I was so desperate to be accepted. I was awful. I fucking sucked. Like 20 to like 25, I was not a good person. I was not fun to be around. I was manipulative and shitty, and so much of it was couched in this just like desperate need to be liked and to be accepted, because I just felt like something was inherently wrong with me. And
that's why you say what you say about people pleasing.
Yeah. And looking back, like I sucked, but I also have to give that version of myself so much kindness and compassion, because I just kept getting told that I couldn't possibly be autistic. I just kept getting told that I couldn't possibly have ADHD for all of these reasons that were so just not part of the like you get good grades, you can't have ADHD, all these things. And so I kept looking for a reason, like, why am I struggling? Why do I feel so broken? Why can't I keep up? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? And so I was not kind. I mean, I tried to be kind, but I did a lot of things that I really regret. And I said yes to a lot of things when I meant no. I would tolerate a lot of unkindness and a lot of manipulation and a lot of being taken advantage of, because I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to be known and seen and be told that it was okay. And so it really wasn't until my 30s when I really started realizing that that was not sustainable and it wasn't healthy, and really starting to make changes about the way that I sort of set expectations around like how I will and won't be treated. But yeah, I think that's what I would say is just you're allowed to ask for the thing you want.
That's good. I feel like 39-year-old Jess is beneficial to hear that again.
Yeah. And it kind of fits in with like you're first be like, wait, hold on. I would first tell myself you have ADHD. But the thing is like it kind of blends in together, because realistically, when you are asking, why am I like this? Why am I the way that I am? Why is everything feel like it's such a catastrophic struggle for me just to exist as a human? And that is asking for what you want. You are trying to find an answer. And yet you are being told at every turn, there's nothing wrong with you. When you innately know, it's like, no, I am struggling for a specific reason. There is a reason why I am struggling. And I am trying to find a legitimate answer that gives me peace that I need in order to be able to shift from survival to thriving.
Yeah.
And when you start to do that, then yes, you can take the next step of being like, not only can I ask for what I want, I can get what I want, and I'm also then able to receive what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I was just thinking one thing, which is that knowing who you are is such a gift to the world and to everyone else.
Yeah.
Like it actually meets that need that you keep trying to accomplish in the wrong way of like wanting to please everyone. It to take care of yourself, to know yourself. It is a gift to everyone else in the end. And like it better achieves that goal. And that's really the root of like what you're saying. Like cuz you got to know yourself to even ask for what you want.
It's funny. So I have not to shill, but I have a podcast. It's called Sorry I Missed This. And it's about ADHD's impact on relationships and communication. And the sort of punchline of the show that I didn't even expect, like I really didn't, like when we started making the show, I was like, yeah, we'll see what we find out. Basically the punchline of every episode winds up just being like, you have to be able to name what you want. You have to be able to articulate your needs. And doing that is the only way to be fulfilled, whether or not you are advocating for your needs to another person and like asking for help, or just simply being confident in like, no, I do need to like wake up at, 10:30, or whatever. Those kind of things, like advocating with yourself in order to make sure that you are taking the best possible care of yourself. That's like the entire episode is just, have you considered asking for what you want?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to have to listen now. I surprisingly haven't listened to that pod, but that sounds like that would be way up my alley. I find it really interesting that we, in previous seasons, we've talked about what it means to be queer. And yet somehow in our entire 2 hours of conversating, we did not touch on the queerness as much, and we didn't. There's so many things that we didn't touch on. I feel like we're going to have another conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to go back
soon. I really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed diving deep in ways that I don't think I knew that we were going to dive deep. And that's what I love about this. Like there's so many other ways that ADHD and autism comes up in conversation, and yet we just we meandered around it. We're like, oh yeah, we all know the ways. Let's talk about patriarchy. Let's talk about history. Let's talk about, and I just loved it. And I appreciate all the knowledge that you brought to the table. And I always know it's a good conversation when I know I'm going to be thinking about it later.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Can you tell us more about where we can find you and all the
Sure.
things? Give us the little.
Sure. I biffed this, you think, after 5 years, but every single time I'm like, oh God, I've never done anything in my life.
Yeah.
So
Same.
you can find me on all of the socials as Cate Osborn. I did just write a book. It's called The ADHD Field Guide for Adults. It's a bestseller. I'm very, very proud of it. It's available as a hardcover, as an ebook, or as an audiobook, which I did also record. So it's me reading the book, which is kind of neat and
Yes.
cool and fun. I am also currently on a nationals tour. I would say a comedy tour, but I feel like comedy is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. But if you want to know more about where I'm stopping, where I'm speaking, where I'm doing book signings, all of that kind of good stuff, you can get the details over at cateosaurus.com. And like I said, I do also have a podcast. It's through understood.org, which is a really great organization dedicated to helping people with learning differences thrive. And it's called Sorry I Missed This, and it's about ADHD and its impact on sex, communication, relationship, intimacy, and more.
Fantastic. We will absolutely have all of those in the show notes so people will be able to have a very concise way to just find you without having to go searching all of the places.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing. Cate, thank you so very much for coming on and having this absolutely brilliant conversation. I loved being able to be a fly on the wall for some parts and being able to interject in others.
You're just a very active fly. I like it.
I am
but
a very
thank you
active
both
fly.
so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. This was great.
Of course.
Amazing. Until next time. This podcast is hosted by me, Kit Sargent, co-hosted and produced by Jess Grace Garcia of Springward Productions, and the theme music is by Brian Smith of Holy Holy Music Productions. If you could do us a huge favor and please follow, comment, share, do all of the things on all of the socials. You can follow the podcast on Instagram @_queer.consciousness for all the latest episodes as well as any other exciting news. When you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star rating and use the comment box for anything you'd like us to talk about. When you're listening to Apple Podcasts, please leave a comment and a 5-star rating. If you'd like to be on the podcast, send a message to queerconsciousnesspod@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/queerconsciousnesspodcast. We are trying to grow as organically as possible, and this helps other like-minded people who want to empower and encourage others on their journey. So until next time, remember to stand in your truth and know that you are worthy, just as you are. Hey friend, just wanted to take a quick second to remind you that if you or someone you know is struggling and don't know where to turn, the trained volunteers at the LGBT National Hotline are here to help. Because sometimes the strongest thing to do is to ask for help. The National Hotline phone number is 888-843-4564. And if you want to check out the other things that they have available for them to help you with, you can check out the lgbthotline.org in order to be able to see all of the services that they offer in order to help our community.